overall, how would you evaluate President Biden's leadership and effectiveness in addressing the diverse range of issues that are currently facing the nation?
I'm going to go with a B, kind of a B, B minus. First off, I think he waited too late. Did real well when he had control of Congress, the complete Congress. Now that he doesn't have the lower house, but he's got the upper house. It's not necessarily his fault. He's herding cats.
Herding cats,
and
yeah.
Having been a department chair in a high school dealing with teachers,
Yeah.
I know what herding cats is like.
Oh, yeah.
He really has no control over that. He has good plans. He has great ideas. He has followed through. He tries very hard, but he cannot control the Chaos Caucus. And that makes it impossible to get anything done because the do-nothing Congress is going to do nothing. But when you look at, he feels bad because he can't provide for Ukraine. I think there's ways around that, but they don't listen to him when he says, if we give them our old equipment, we build new equipment, and we put people to work and keep our people working and our economy going. That makes sense. But no, they don't want to do that. When you look at Netanyahu and the fiasco in Israel, he has no control over that.
Yeah.
The only thing he can do is say, oh, we're not going to give you any more money or any more weapons. And then that's a group of people in this country that thinks he should be able to move heaven and earth for Israel. Well, we should be able to move heaven and earth for both Israel and Ukraine and Taiwan. But you can't do that if you don't have a cooperation of the Chaos Caucus. And you never will. That's why they're Chaos Caucus. I can't give him an A.
Right.
Even though it's really not his fault.
Yeah.
He's done good for the economy, got the best economy in the world after the recovery from COVID.
Yeah.
He's done great for the working person. Unemployment is down. Wages are up. He can't control the greed mongers at the top who are taking profits like crazy without regard for what's happening to the people at the bottom. Yeah, I would have to say a B, B minus. The first thing we have to do is get rid of the Chaos Caucus.
Right. Very well said.
It manages to get back in the White House, we're all doomed. I look at it and I think corporate greed is a big part of what we're seeing. Walmart, Kroger, you name it, Target, all of them have gone to self-checkout, and they hire just a few people to work the self-checkout. So put people back on the registers, put people to work doing that, and pay them a decent wage. Literally, the only way the federal government can make them do anything less is through negotiation and through setting price caps, and that is not capitalism, and we have been under a form of capitalism ever since we became a nation.
Absolutely.
So you're not going to change that. But the one thing they could do is the one thing that he who shall not be named said he wouldn't do, and that is to make sure that the 1%ers and the 3%ers are paying their fair share of taxes. I can't hide what I make. In fact, I got a 1099 from a publishing company for $26 for my doctoral thesis, where people had purchased my doctoral thesis or used it in the library, but they sent it way late. We had already submitted our taxes.
Right.
I didn't know I was getting this check for $26 and change. I literally had to go back and pay back state and federal taxes to the tune of $6 on $26.
Jeez.
Because I knew if I didn't, I would get audited because I'm just a little fish. I don't have deep pockets. Go for it. Let me forget to put $26 in there on my taxes as income. Anyone who's making Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk kind of money, they can hide their money. They can do write-offs and things. I can't do that. Average Joe Schmuckatello down here in my price range or less, they can't hide their money. They got to pay everything. They got to claim everything. And they have few deductions, while big corporations have massive deductions where they end up paying no taxes whatsoever. It's like, really? So that is the flaw in capitalism. But I'd rather have capitalism than communism.
Well, yeah, any day.
Or authoritarianism. I mean, it's almost bad enough now that they're telling women what they should and shouldn't do with their body. The positives need to get out there. We have a good system. We need to keep the system. It needs work. But it's who do you want to do the work? Somebody who's going to give the 3%ers and the 1%ers huge more tax breaks than they already have? Or someone who wants them to pay their fair share? I mean, there is your answer.
Exactly. Very, very well said.
The dilemma that we face, the choice you have to make as a person. And trust me, he who must not be named does not care about your little problems living in a 2-bedroom apartment that you can barely afford the rent and the utilities on because you make minimum wage or less. He does not care. He who is in the White House right now is extremely concerned. The news media is in it for the shock value, I would say. That's the closest thing I can say to it. The more outrageous things are said, the more they report them.
Yeah.
It's like turning on the TV and all I have seen is this is what's going on with this trial. This is what's going on with that trial. This is what's going on over here. And not, oh, look, they're building a new bridge, or they put in 20,000 miles of high-speed internet in the mountains in Virginia and North Carolina and down into Georgia, over in West Virginia. They don't talk about that.
No, they don't.
Because that's not shock value news.
Right.
They want to talk about what is going on in the New York courts, Southern District of New York. They want to talk about what's going on in Washington in the courts. They want to talk what's going on in Georgia, which was a fiasco. They'll pound on that, but they won't talk about the good things that have been going on. Oh, look, Grandpa doesn't have to pay $500 a month for his insulin.
Yep.
He only has to pay $35. They don't talk about, oh, guess what? Half the diabetics in this country that are taking Mounjaro, Ozempic, Trulicity medications can't get their medications because they're being used for weight loss. I can't get mine. I had to do a convoluted way to get my Trulicity this time for 3 months. So instead of getting my dose, I have to take 2 doses of a lower dose medication because my dose is the one they use for weight loss. That's great fun. So 2 shots instead of 1.
That stinks.
We're not talking about those things. Too busy talking about the clown convention that's going on. Talk about the good things that are going on. And where was it? Seattle? Somewhere out towards the left coast. They were talking about, or maybe it was in Dallas, which surprised me, where they've built all of these tiny homes and gone and gotten homeless people off the street into these tiny homes. They get them counseling, rehab, and training so that they can stay in those homes.
Yeah. And
they're off the streets. But for the life of me, a thought on CBS Sunday Morning, and they were just talking about that they had done this, and their homeless problem in that city is zero. Zero. Talk about that.
Yeah.
Where did they get the money for that? Did it come from the infrastructure bill? Might have.
Maybe it did.
To me, that's the answer to a homeless problem, and that was a fairly large city. Houston, Dallas, Seattle, Portland, somewhere in that range of cities. To me, that's a good thing. Why don't we hear about that? Why did I only hear about it on Sunday morning TV? Not being talked about by the mainstream media. It was California, one of the cities in California that did it. It takes somebody with the initiative to seek the funding and then start the process and building. It's like Habitat for Humanity. The houses may or may not be completely finished, and if they're not, then they have to do sweat equity for the house. And a lot of the people that they were helping were veterans who comprise a huge section of our homeless problem in this country. But because they come back with PTSD, they don't get treatment, they can't stay in the homes with their families. Mainstream media doesn't cover it. It's not news. News is the clown show, shock value, the chaos caucus. News is what Lauren Boebert did on her vacation. Who cares? I am very disappointed in the fact that good news doesn't get out, and good news that's based on programs that may have come through grants from the government don't get out. It's just sad. Unless you see it going on, and since I travel up and down parts of the East Coast, I see a lot of infrastructure changes. I know what's happening. And trust me, I can tell you that there are now probably 10 new solar farms between here and Lake Gaston. The infrastructure bill at work